2 Florida injections in 1 month, a thank you on the gurney, and a fugitive who walked into a Molokai station after a TV broadcast. Welcome to Row Report. Jacksonville, winter of 1993. A yellow Plymouth noses up to the curb outside Moncrief Liquors. Inside the lounge, friends queue at the door. Jimmy West laughs with a companion. Tameka Smith reaches for a coat. Weeknight air, neon hum, a door that swings the same as every other night until Bernard Bel waits long enough for routine to crack. He has been waiting for months. His brother was shot that summer. A judge called it self-defense. Bel called it something else. In the days before the ambush, he sends a girlfriend into a gun shop. She buys a rifle, a high-capacity magazine, and boxes of rounds. The form is filled. The clerk stamps it. The receipt goes into the case and will follow him to trial. Witnesses remember the approach. Bel steps out in a mask, moves to the driver's door, and fires from just steps away. Shell casings roll across the lot, glass across the ground. More shots sound toward the line outside the lounge. Not at the car now, at the sidewalk, at people waiting to dance. Panic scatters the lot. Engines bark and pull away. Someone shouts, then disappears through a side door. The yellow Plymouth stays under the streetlight, pocked and still. Sirens take the last word. Detectives start with what's in front of them and what's in writing. 3 eyewitnesses, a plan for payback spoken out loud for months. The fresh rifle purchase, ink still dark. At an aunt's house, Bel reportedly tosses off one cold sentence about revenge. It lands in a report and doesn't move. The following year, deputies act on a Duval County warrant. Mugshots put a face where rumor used to be. The case leaves the parking lot and walks into a room of wood paneling and clipped questions. Prosecutors stack receipts beside witness accounts. A caliber mark meets a casing mark. The jury hears each piece and begins nodding. Guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The judge imposes 2 death sentences. Appeals arrive as expected. Recantations, tactics, trial moves argued line by line. The state high court reads, then rejects. A federal petition raises new flags. Those flags drop. The pages close where they opened. Decades pass. Florida alters policies, adjusts forms, changes the wording on who can witness what. But the core remains the same. A death warrant with a governor's signature, a date, and the quiet logistics around it. Florida still permits a requested last meal, capped at $40 and sourced locally. No alcohol, no extravagance. If a request fits the rule, the kitchen obliges. That morning inside Florida State Prison, staff log what they always log. Wake up before dawn. A standard breakfast, omelet, bacon, home fries, orange juice. A brief meeting with a spiritual advisor. No other visits recorded. Outside the wire, a handful of demonstrators take positions in the heat and say what they came to say. The chamber waits behind a door. Florida uses a 3-drug sequence, sedative, paralytic, then the final agent. Witnesses settle into a narrow gallery. Curtains part. An air vent hushes the room. The warden asks if he wants to speak. Bel keeps it short. He thanks staff for not leaving him locked away for life. Tape holds the IV in place. Gloves check the line. A nod. A rhythm learned by repetition. Breathing slows. Eyes fix on a point that doesn't move. A physician steps forward and announces the time. Reporters gather at a small lectern and read the line they were handed. Families leave without speaking. The sidewalk clears in minutes. Another order was already scheduled for 2 weeks later. Same chamber, 2 weeks away. This time, the trail runs through a television. Mary Esther, Okaloosa County, a modest house near the base. Sylvia Zakrzewski tells a neighbor the marriage is breaking. She plans to take the children home. Her husband, Edward James Zakrzewski II, hears the decision at work that day. On his lunch break, he buys a machete, another receipt, a rope, a crowbar, tools that look like maintenance on paper. He drives home before his family, tucks the blade in a bathroom where nothing should be hidden, and waits. The clock drags until evening. The door opens at last. The children, EZ and AZ, kick off their shoes and float toward the TV. Sylvia sits in her work clothes. What follows lives in the record and doesn't need retelling here. A medical examiner describes injuries in clinical words. Charges speak for themselves. Zakrzewski pleads guilty. He leaves Florida behind. Orlando to Hawaii. New routine, new name. He calls himself Michael Green and finds work around a minister's house on Molokai, errands for a bed and a plate. For 4 months, the mainland story feels like weather far offshore. Then a Thursday night segment brings the storm to the living room. A long-running show features his face. A host narrates. A photo lingers. A boy on the sofa glances at the man everyone calls Michael. A phone number sits at the bottom of the screen. The next morning starts with a drive. He walks into the Molokai station. Maui County officers take the name he gives and the name he used. Fingerprints confirm what the room already suspects. Extradition paperwork moves from island to island and back to a clerk in Florida. The return trip is quiet. Back in Okaloosa County, the penalty phase fills days. Neighbors testify he vowed to kill rather than separate. Prosecutors set the machete receipt beside those words. The jury recommends death on 2 counts. For AZ, the panel advises life. The judge overrules and imposes death on all 3. Appeals rise and fall. The sentences stand. Years move. Florida's protocol remains the protocol. The last meal policy remains the policy. Another warrant arrives with another date, this one in July. Requests for stays climb the ladder and come down. The hallway is the same. Inside, the routine starts even earlier than usual. He wakes before dawn. A heavy plate from the kitchen, fried pork chops with onions, potatoes, bacon, toast, ice cream, pie, coffee, and a root beer set to the side. That evening, the sheet, the tape, the viewing room, unchanged. The man on the gurney asks to speak. He thanks the state in calm, precise words for how the process is carried out. Then 4 more. I have no complaint. Silence stretches, the steps run to completion. A doctor listens and notes the minute. The curtain moves. Outside, a small group passes the chain-link fence without a word. For Florida, 2 executions 16 days apart set a pace the year hadn't seen in a long time. A walk-in at a small island station and the long route back to Rayford. Both stories share familiar pieces. A stack of receipts. A witness close enough to see a mask. A neighbor who wrote down a sentence spoken on a hot night. When patterns pile up, juries decide by the weight of the pile. When the petitions stop landing, warrants take over. The policy fills in the rest. Those policies matter. Florida's last meal cap stays at $40. Items must be something the prison can obtain nearby. Requests that wander outside the rule get trimmed rather than denied outright. On method, the state remains with a 3-drug sequence and a written choreography. Who asks what, who watches where, who calls the time.